Across the galaxy, the name Varlock was spoken in hushed tones, a planet swallowed by tangled jungles and thunderous storms, where beasts ruled supreme. Not just any beasts, but colossal creatures, towering like mountains, armed with claws that could rip through steel, scales that deflected plasma, and eyes that gleamed with an ancient predatory intelligence. For centuries, no civilized species dared venture deep into its wilds. Entire colonies vanished without a trace. Ships came back shredded, crews traumatized or dead. The Galactic Council had declared Varlock a no-go zone. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. But humanity had never been known for playing it safe. When the Starship Pioneer dropped out of hyperspace into orbit, its captain stared down at the sprawling emerald chaos below with a fierce grin. "We don't run from legends," Captain Mara Wren said, her voice calm but charged with conviction as the bridge crew worked feverishly around her. "We hunt them." Behind her, the crew of the Pioneer was a motley mix: seasoned soldiers, scientists hungry for discovery, and hunters who carried Earth's oldest traditions in their veins. Their mission, to prove humanity's place among the stars not through diplomacy or trade, but by mastering the wilds where others had failed. As the atmosphere entry bay hissed open, the jungle's roar welcomed them like a challenge. Mara's first squad touched down near the ruins of an alien village. Its shattered homes and scorched earth grim reminders of past defeats. The squad moved silently through the dense undergrowth, their suits blending tech and camouflage. Sensors flickered to life, scanning for signs of movement, but the jungle seemed endless and indifferent. Then the ground trembled beneath their boots, a low rumble that grew into a pounding roar. From the shadows emerged the first legend, a beast, so immense its footsteps cracked the earth, its eyes glowing like molten gold. Razor-sharp spines lined its massive back, dripping with venom, its tail swinging like a battering ram. The squad froze for a heartbeat. Then instinct took over, lasers flared, and the creature charged. The jungle exploded in a storm of sound and fury. The beast smashed trees and sent hunters flying with brutal swipes. But humanity fought differently, not with reckless force, but with a chaotic precision born from millennia of survival on Earth. Hunters split into flanking positions, launching nets charged with electrified threads, using sonic pulses to confuse the beast's senses. One hunter, Eric, moved closer, dodging a swipe, and fired a specialized dart into the beast's flank. The creature roared in pain and fury but faltered, not because it was weak, but because it was surprised by an opponent who didn't cower. When the dust settled, the beast limped away, beaten but alive. Back at the camp, adrenaline still coursing, Mara's eyes sparkled with something deeper than victory. A challenge accepted and partially won. "This is only the beginning," she told her team. "We'll learn their patterns, their weaknesses. We'll show the galaxy that humanity doesn't just survive, we dominate." From the observation deck, Mara looked down at the untamed green. The legends were real, but so was the fire burning in her people's hearts. The galaxy's fiercest beasts might have ruled these worlds for eons, but humanity had arrived, and they were hungry. The jungle seemed alive with a pulse of danger. Every leaf, every shadow whispered secrets of creatures that had ruled these wilds long before the first starship charted the galaxy. But Mara and her squad had no time for reverence. The hunt was on. Tracking the wounded beast from the previous battle, they moved cautiously through twisted vines and towering trees that blocked out the sun. Sensors beeped softly, picking up faint heat signatures and bioelectric signals. The humans relied not just on technology, but on instincts honed over generations. They had faced Earth's deadliest predators: wolves, bears, saber-toothed cats, and emerged stronger. This was just another hunt. Suddenly the ground shook violently beneath their feet. From the shadows, an even larger beast emerged, the one the galaxy whispered about in fearful tones. The Varlock Titan. It was a nightmare made flesh. Twice the size of any creature Mara had ever seen, its thick hide looked like cracked obsidian, mottled with glowing blue veins. Massive horns curved from its skull, each one sharp as a blade. Its eyes burned with cold intelligence, scanning the hunters like a seasoned general reading an enemy's formation. The squad didn't hesitate. Lasers cracked through the humid air, echoing as the Titan charged forward with earth-shaking force. Trees exploded like twigs and the hunters scattered, taking cover behind massive ferns and shattered trunks. Mara's voice cut through the chaos. "Flank left. Target the joints." The Titan lashed out with its tail, knocking 2 hunters off their feet. A heavy claw swept down, smashing a tree mere inches from Auric's helmet. His heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to flee, but training held him steady. As the beast closed in, Mara activated her suit's enhanced reflexes and dove beneath the swinging claws. She drove a plasma blade into a glowing joint near the Titan's leg. The creature roared, but the wound didn't cripple it. It only made it angrier. From the treetops, drones buzzed, firing concentrated bursts of energy to distract the Titan. It swatted at them, but the small machines evaded each blow. The hunters coordinated flawlessly, each move timed and calculated. No other species had ever fought the Varlock beasts with this level of precision and daring. Auric gritted his teeth and launched an electrified net. The cables wrapped around the Titan's massive neck, sending a shockwave that caused the creature to stumble, roaring in fury. But the Titan's intelligence shone through. It grasped the cables with massive hands and tore them loose, hurling them aside like threads. The fight dragged on, brutal and exhausting. Hunters fell, but each death steeled the survivors' resolve. Mara's mind raced, calculating angles and openings. She remembered a story her grandfather told her about how humanity's ancestors didn't conquer Earth's predators by brute force alone, but by outsmarting and outlasting them. With a fierce cry, Mara gave the order. "Aim. For the eyes and throat. Focus fire." The hunters unleashed a coordinated volley. Plasma beams seared the Titan's eyes, blinding one of them, while sonic grenades detonated near its throat. The creature staggered, bellowing in pain and rage, and retreated into the jungle's depths, battered, bleeding, but alive. Mara lowered her blade, breath ragged. Around her the squad regrouped, bruised and bloodied but victorious. "This is no mindless beast," she said, voice low but fierce. "It thinks, it adapts, but so do we. We don't just fight, we learn, we survive." The squad shared tired but triumphant smiles. The galaxy might fear the beasts of Varlock, but humanity had proven something new, that no matter how fierce the opponent, the human spirit refused to yield. As the jungle's shadows stretched long, Mara's eyes scanned the horizon. The Titan would return, and so would they. This was just the opening salvo in a war that would shake the stars. The hum of the starship Pioneer was a faint but steady pulse beneath Mara's feet as she stepped into the training chamber. Outside, the jungle's roar still echoed faintly in her mind, the sound of the Titan's furious charge, the clash of claws and plasma fire, the thunder of battle. She could still taste the metallic tang of blood on her tongue, but the fight wasn't over. The squad had returned bruised, some limping, all tired. Yet, in their eyes burned the same fierce fire Mara had seen countless times before, the hunger not just to survive but to conquer. They were hunters, yes, but also students. Every wound was a lesson, every scar a badge. "Gather around," Mara said, her voice cutting through the room's sterile chill. The recruits settled in, some nursing bruises, others listening with wide eyes. "You've seen what these beasts can do. You've faced them and lived. That's more than most." She paced slowly, her hands clasped behind her back. "But surviving isn't enough. If we want to hunt these monsters, we have to understand them, know their patterns, predict their moves." She stopped and met each pair of eyes in turn. Our ancestors on Earth didn't dominate because they were the biggest or strongest. They adapted. They used their brains, their tools, their spirit. That's the hunter's creed: adapt, endure, and never back down. Auric, still limping but alert, raised a hand. "Captain, how do we beat something that's faster, stronger, smarter?" Mara smiled, a rare softness in her fierce gaze. "By being human. We fight with everything we have. Not just weapons, but creativity and heart. We don't just bring steel and fire. We bring cunning and will. Every beast has a weakness if you're willing to find it. A holographic table flickered to life, displaying scans from the Titan's battle. Mara traced the beast's movement with a laser pointer. Notice the joints here, where the armor is thinner, the glowing veins, a vital system we can disrupt. And the eyes. Creatures like this rely heavily on sight. Temporary blindness disorients them. But more than that, she continued, voice dropping, we must learn their psychology. These beasts are ancient, yes, but not mindless. They hunt, protect territory, even show signs of emotion. To survive, we have to think like them. The room was silent, the recruits absorbing every word. For many, this was more than a mission. It was a crucible. Later, as the team trained in the combat simulators and practiced deploying nets and sonic grenades, Mara watched closely. Each rookie showed sparks of potential. Quick reflexes, clever improvisation, stubborn courage. But she also saw fear. Not the paralyzing kind, but the kind that fueled adrenaline and sharpened focus. Mara's mind drifted to Earth's forgotten wilderness. The ancient battles of humankind against wolves, bears, saber-toothed cats. Those were the crucibles that shaped her ancestors' spirit. The same spirit was alive here, on this alien world, facing predators that should have broken them. As night fell over the ship, Mara retired to her quarters. She pulled out a worn datapad, opening a file labeled Ancestor Lessons. The screen displayed tales of hunters who tracked great beasts across savage lands, not with overwhelming force, but with patience, intelligence, and respect. She read, aloud softly, the hunt is a test of mind and spirit. The beast that can't be killed by strength alone can be outsmarted by cunning and heart. A quiet knock interrupted her thoughts. Arik stepped inside, face marked by fatigue but eyes burning with determination. Captain, when we go back, how do we make sure this isn't just another slaughter? How do we make sure we don't lose ourselves in the fight? Mara looked at him with pride. We don't. That's what makes us different. We fight not because we hate the beasts, but because we respect them, and because we respect ourselves. The strongest warriors don't break the wild. They become part of it. Arik nodded slowly. Then I'm ready. For whatever comes next. Mara smiled. Good. Because the real hunt is just beginning. Outside the ship, the jungle pulsed with life, shadows shifting beneath moonlight. Somewhere deep within, the Titan stirred, wounded but unbroken. The battle lines were drawn, not just of blood and steel, but of spirit and will. Humanity was learning, growing, preparing to become legends, and they would not be forgotten. The Pioneer's crew had barely caught their breath when the alarms blared across the ship. The jungle's quiet menace had shifted into a storm of danger. The Titan was no longer just a distant legend. It was hunting them. Mara's eyes snapped, open as the alert blared. The holomap flickered, showing several camps reduced to smoldering ruins. Human casualties had mounted, and the hunters were being stalked. The beast had learned. It was no longer a mindless monster. It was a hunter with a deadly purpose. Get me a full status report, Mara barked. We need to understand how it's tracking us before we lose everything. Reports flooded in. Camps destroyed, supply lines cut, squads ambushed and decimated. The Titan was relentless, striking with calculated precision, as if it knew exactly where the humans would be before they even moved. Mara clenched her jaw. They said these beasts were unstoppable. Maybe they were right, but they never faced. As her squad geared up quickly, adrenaline sharpening their senses. Arik double-checked his weapons, plasma rifles, sonic grenades, and experimental neural disruptors designed to scramble the beast's targeting. Every tool mattered. We need a plan, not just firepower, Mara said, rallying her team. The Titan's hunting us. We become the hunted. But that changes now. The squad deployed into the jungle, moving cautiously through shattered undergrowth. Mara's senses sharpened. Every crack, every whisper could be the Titan closing. And suddenly a sharp whistle cracked the air. A trap sprung. Arik froze as a massive tail slammed into him, throwing him hard against a tree. Pain exploded through his ribs, breath knocked out. Mara was on him instantly, firing plasma bursts at the shadows where the Titan lurked. The beast stepped into the clearing, larger and angrier than ever. Its eyes burned with cold fury as it advanced, every step shaking the earth. It was the ultimate hunter, and it had chosen its prey. The squad scattered, dodging claws and swipes. Mara's voice cut through the chaos. Fall back to the ravine, regroup and hold. But the Titan was relentless. It blocked their escape, forcing them toward the edge of a steep cliff. Hunters fell one by one, caught in crushing blows or swallowed by the jungle's shadows. Mara felt the weight of every life depending on her decisions. She remembered the lessons of adaptation, of using the environment. She shouted orders, use the terrain, lure it to the ravine's edge. The hunters sprang into action, firing sonic grenades that echoed through the canyon walls, confusing the Titan's senses. Arik, grimacing from his injury, fired a net that snagged the beast's foreleg, slowing its charge. With a roar, the Titan crashed toward the ravine's edge, unbalanced by the traps. Mara sprinted, launching herself at the beast's flank and driving a plasma blade deep into the joint. The creature stumbled, teetering dangerously close to the precipice. For a heart-stopping moment, the jungle fell silent, except for the pounding of Mara's heart and the beast's labored breaths. Then with a final furious roar, the Titan lost its footing, but instead of falling, it caught itself with a powerful swipe, gripping the cliff face with deadly claws. The hunters watched, breathless, as the Titan pulled itself up, battered but alive. It looked down at Mara, eyes flashing with grudging respect. Then with a violent shake, it disappeared back into the jungle's depths, leaving behind a trail of crushed trees and shattered hope. Mara knelt beside Arik, checking his wounds. We didn't win today, she said quietly. But we showed it's something new. Fearlessness. Arik smiled weakly. And that's just the beginning. Back at the Pioneer, the weight of the day settled heavy. The Titan had proven it could hunt the hunters, and humanity faced a ruthless enemy unlike any other. But Mara's resolve only deepened. We don't just fight for survival, she told her team later, voice steely. We fight for mastery. This beast pushed us to the edge, and we're going to push back 10 times harder. The galaxy was watching, the legends growing. The Titan was no longer an unbeatable monster. It was a worthy opponent, and humanity was ready to become the ultimate hunter. The jungle's oppressive silence felt like a heartbeat waiting to explode. Mara's squad moved with deadly purpose, every step measured and cautious. The Titan had forced them back before. This time they weren't just running from it. They were going to make it run. Inside the Pioneer, engineers had been working feverishly on a new weapon, a web of bioengineered traps, designed to immobilize creatures as massive as the Titan. The traps used neural disruptors and electrified vines that could sever the creature's synapses, temporarily paralyzing it without killing it. The plan was risky, relying on precise timing and split-second coordination. Mara gathered her squad around a holographic map, blueprints glowing in the dim light. This is the labyrinth, a maze we've crafted deep in the jungle. We'll lead the Titan straight into it. The traps will do the rest. Arik glanced at the plan, skepticism in his eyes. And if it sees through the trap, it's smarter than any beast we've faced. Mara met his gaze, steady and unyielding. Then we adapt again. That's what makes us human. They deployed just before dawn, slipping into the labyrinth's tangled web of vines and bioengineered snares. The air was thick with humidity, the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves heavy on their senses. Mara's heart hammered as they set bait and laid traps, each one humming with deadly potential. Hours passed and tension mounted. The squad moved silently, shadows flitting between the hanging vines, alert for any sign of the Titan. Then it came, a low growl, vibrating through the trees. The ground shook beneath their boots as the Titan approached, its massive form emerging from the jungle's dark depths. It moved cautiously, sensing the trap but driven by primal rage and curiosity. Mara signaled the squad to spread out, activating the traps with a series of synchronized pulses. Electrified vines snapped to life, ensnaring the Titan's legs and sending a shockwave through its massive frame. The creature roared in pain and fury, thrashing against the bindings. But the Titan was not defeated. It swiped and tore at the vines, each movement draining its strength. The neural disruptors pulsed again, forcing spasms through its limbs. The beast's eyes flickered with confusion, then a terrible rage as it realized the humans had outsmarted. The squad pressed forward, firing plasma shots into vulnerable joints exposed by the bindings. The Titan's thrashing slowed, its massive body sagging under the relentless assault. Mara moved in, her plasma blade glowing with focused energy. With a fierce cry, she plunged it deep into the beast's side, aiming for the vital veins glowing beneath its cracked hide. The Titan shuddered violently, then collapsed with a ground-shaking impact. Silence fell over the jungle, broken only by the labored breaths of the wounded hunters. Mara knelt beside the beast, eyes locking with its fading gaze. In that moment, something shifted, a silent recognition between predator and hunter. The Titan's roar became a low rumble, almost like a sigh. "We didn't just trap a beast," Mara whispered. "We earned its respect." Back at the Pioneer, the victory was a turning point. The squad healed, but their spirits soared. The galaxy's fiercest predator had been humbled, not by brute force alone, but by humanity's relentless spirit, intelligence, and unyielding will. Mara addressed her team in the command hall, pride shining in her eyes. "This is what it means to be human. We don't just survive the wild, we master it. The Titan is broken but not destroyed, and that means our fight has only just begun." As the sun rose over the jungle canopy, casting golden light on the battered squad, the future looked different, brighter, harder, and full of promise. The galaxy was watching. Humanity had sent a clear message. No beast, no matter how fierce, could stand against their fire. The jungle was quieter now. The Titan's roar no longer echoed through the towering trees, but the battle had left scars, not just on the land, but on those who dared face the fiercest beast in the galaxy. Captain Mara Wren stood on the observation deck of the Pioneer, watching the shifting canopy below. The hunt had changed them all. The brutal clash with the Titan had tested their limits and forced them to confront something deeper than mere survival. The ship's AI chimed softly. "Incoming transmission, Captain, from the Galactic Council." Mara's brow furrowed as she accepted the message. The Council's stern voice crackled through the speakers. "Captain Wren, your success in taming the Varlock beast has echoed across the galaxy. Your tactics and courage have redefined humanity's place among the stars. We invite you to share your findings and strategies with allied fleets." Mara exchanged a glance with Arik, standing quietly beside her. His wounds had healed, but the fire in his eyes burned brighter than ever. "We're not just hunting beasts anymore," Mara said quietly. "We're carving a legacy." The transmission ended, but the weight of their achievement settled heavy. They had faced a living nightmare and come out stronger. Humanity was no longer a fledgling species scrambling for survival. They were legends in the making. Yet Mara knew the fight wasn't over. Other worlds teemed with dangers, and other beasts waited in shadows. The Titan was but one chapter, in a story written by fire and blood. Down in the jungle, scouts reported strange new movements, creatures adapting, evolving in response to humanity's assault. The wild was changing, and so were the hunters. At the training grounds, Mara addressed her squad. "We've broken the myth of the unbeatable beast, but they learn, adapt, and so must we. Our legacy isn't just in battle, it's in the fire. We pass on." Arik stepped forward, his voice steady. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for every human who dreams of the stars, for every step into the unknown." Mara smiled. "Exactly. Our enemies are fierce, but so is our spirit. We don't just face the wild, we become it." As days passed, the squad prepared for new expeditions, testing advanced weapons, refining tactics, and building bonds that transcended mere survival. They shared stories around flickering fires, stories of Earth's ancient hunts and the primal spirit that refused to die. One evening, Mara found herself alone at the edge of the jungle. The stars glittered above, distant but within reach. She felt the pulse of the wild, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, untamed, and full of promise. Her hand tightened around a small carved token, a keepsake from her grandfather, a symbol of resilience and hope. The same spirit that had carried humanity through Earth's darkest hours now guided her across the stars. "We're just getting started," she whispered to the night. The galaxy's fiercest beasts had once ruled, unchallenged. Now, they faced a new force, humanity, driven by fire, steel, and unbreakable will. The hunt would continue, the legends would grow, and humanity's legacy would blaze across the stars forever. The galaxy was changing. News of Mara's victory spread like wildfire across star systems. Other species, once towering as apex predators, now looked warily at humanity, not as prey, but as a rising force that refused to yield. Back on the Pioneer, the crew prepared for their next mission. The once raw hunters had grown into a disciplined strike force, blending Earthborn grit with cutting-edge technology. Their successes against the Varlock Titan had sparked a revolution. Humanity wasn't just surviving among the stars, they were dominating. Mara stood before her squad, the weight of command settling on her shoulders like a mantle forged in battle. The galaxy doesn't reward the timid. We have proven ourselves capable of more than just survival. We've become the hunters. Auric, now a seasoned warrior scarred by every encounter, stepped forward. The other species are watching, adapting. They fear us. But that fear is a weapon we can wield. The squad's chatter hummed with anticipation. The hunt was no longer a simple fight for survival. It was a war for respect, territory, and legacy. Recon data had pinpointed a new target, a massive predator species known as the Scarthax, whose speed and ferocity had made them legends in the Outer Rim. The Scarthax ruled vast asteroid fields and shattered moons, their razor-sharp claws carving destruction through space itself. Mara studied the data. They're faster than the Varlock, more cunning. We'll need everything we have. And then, some. The team spent days in simulation, drilling tactics that relied on precision, teamwork, and outthinking an opponent that could outmatch them in raw power. When the day came to deploy, the Pioneer sliced through the void, cloaked in stealth. The crew held their breath as the Scarthax hunting grounds loomed on the viewscreen, dark, fractured rocks orbiting a dying star. The first encounter was brutal and sudden. The Scarthax burst from hiding with lightning speed, their claws tearing through the hull of a scouting drone. Plasma fire erupted in the void as Mara's team engaged with deadly efficiency, weaving through the asteroid field like a deadly dance. But the Scarthax were no mindless beasts. They adapted quickly, setting traps and ambushes that forced the hunters into desperate retreats. Mara's voice crackled through comms, calm but commanding. Fall back to the asteroid cluster. Use the environment. Remember, adapt, endure, conquer. The hunters used their knowledge of terrain as weapons. They created decoys, triggered controlled explosions, and exploited gravitational anomalies to outmaneuver their foes. The battle became a chess match played in zero gravity, every move a gamble. Slowly, the tide turned. The Scarthax began to falter against a species whose ingenuity rivaled their raw ferocity. One by one, their ranks broke under relentless pressure. After a grueling fight, Mara found herself face to face with the Scarthax Alpha, a colossal creature with eyes like burning coals and claws that could slice through steel. The duel was fierce and primal, a test of strength and will. Mara dodged a lethal swipe, countered with a precise plasma strike, and finally drove a blade deep into the Alpha's chest. As the creature fell, the void fell silent. Mara stood victorious, breath heavy but spirit unbroken. Back aboard the Pioneer, the squad celebrated their triumph, but knew this was just another chapter. The galaxy was a battlefield, and humanity's legend was only beginning. Mara gazed out at the stars, a fierce smile on her lips. We are the hunters now. No beast, no empire, no darkness can stop us. The galaxy's fiercest beasts had been humbled. Humanity had risen, not by chance, but by choice. The hunt continued.